In this video, I'm going to be talking about Edpuzzle. Edpuzzle is a subscription that everyone in the school has access to. And pretty much what Edpuzzle does is it's a platform to create instructional videos. These videos can either be teacher created or they can be from online, such as on YouTube. And the teachers can create actual lessons based off of these videos, inserting questions, audio notes, and things like that. This video is going to go through everything from how to use the platform to how to create videos and how to actually give the videos to your students. To sign into Edpuzzle, you're just going to go to edpuzzle.com. You're going to log in. You're going to click that you are a teacher. And then you're going to go ahead and you're going to scroll down and you're going to go to sign on with Google. It'll ask you to click on your name and that will take you to your dashboard. Your dashboard contains a lot of things. I'm just going to go through most of those just so you're comfortable with how to navigate it. Discover is where you can see other videos that have been created by others within Edpuzzle and shared. If you go over to my content is similar to my drive. It's anything that you have either created and uploaded, or it is something that you have found inside Edpuzzle and you have made a copy of, and we'll talk about that in just a second. My School, that contains any videos that have been created or uploaded by CFA teachers. And you can look at it by teacher. If you say someone in your grade level has created a video that you would like to use, you just find that teacher and then you can find those videos. To get to your classes are over here on the left. If you would like to create a class, you're just going to go to the plus and you're going to create your class either through, if you're not using Google Classroom, you can create a class manually. You would just click on create a class, give it a name, description. Classic means that when your students log in, they have to log in each time, and you're going to get all of the data that goes with that. When did your student complete the activity? How long did it take them? Did they answer the questions? Things like that. So the students do have to log in. If you create an open class, that just means that the students will get a generic nickname and you will just give them a code to join the class. So the students do not have to log in. So that's the difference in those two. But if I want to create a class with Google Classroom, I'm just going to go to that, create a class, Google Classroom, and it's going to connect to all of the classes that you are a member of. You're just going to click on your class and then you're going to import that class. I've already created mine, so I don't need to do anything else, and you can see it listed right here. You can archive the class when you are done with it. So when it comes to your dashboard, you do have a couple things to keep in mind. This is everything that I have worked on, everything that I have sent out to my test students. I can look at who are my members in my class. So here's my 2 students. I can look at my grade book. I don't have really any grades because I haven't had my test students complete anything, but you can see that on the left, you do have your students. At the top, you have your different assignments. So this is one assignment that I have sent out to my students. You'll see that over here, you see my students. You see how much they have watched, so they have not logged in yet. Once they actually complete it, they can have a grade. Last time they watched it, when it was turned in. I can see my questions. So an Edpuzzle pretty much consists of a video that you attach questions to, whether it be open-ended questions, multiple choice questions, and the questions happen periodically where you would like during the video. This means that the students have to watch the whole video in order to answer all the questions. It makes the students slow down. So here's all my questions, and it tells you where it is, tells you what the correct answer is. There is a button over here that says prevent skipping. I can turn this on or off. Pretty much what this means is if I turn this on, the student cannot skip any questions. So in order to get to the end of the video, they must answer all questions. This is the power of Edpuzzle. You can also turn on or off closed captioning, and it's reminding me that I am posting to Classroom. So to get back to my content, a couple other things, you can search YouTube. So if I go to YouTube and I find a video, let's say I want to use this video right here, I can paste it, search, and now I can use that video in Edpuzzle. I can cut any parts out that I need to, and then I can add my questions. So that's that search function. I can also search my content. So if I have a good amount of videos in there, I can easily search them, and then I can sort them however I would like. Discover over here takes you to the community. So there's the community, my school we talked about, and then YouTube. You can either search in the community, or you can just look in different categories. So if I'm looking for math, I'm looking for 3rd grade, and save, it's going to give me everything that has been created in Edpuzzle that is math and 3rd grade. To add content to Edpuzzle, I'm just going to go up to this button right here, the plus add content. And this is where I talked about before. There's a couple ways that you can add content. One, you can pick out a video that's already created, whether it have questions attached to it or not. We'll talk about what to do with that later. Or you can upload your own video. You can use Loom or Screencastify or something like that to create your own video. And you would upload it there and then add your questions to it. Another interesting thing that I found was the student project portion. Pretty much what this means is you're going to assign the students to create their own Edpuzzle. So instead of you creating one for them, they are going to create one for you. And you can decide all the parameters that you want to use for that. Some suggestions for using the class project, like an assessment at the end of the quarter. You can also use these projects you can use them later on in the year if you have a different group of students, or if you have a different group of students the next year. They're really good resources to use later on. So let's say let's discover a video first. So to discover a video, you're just going to either search or you're going to filter and find something. So I'm just going to find something that just random. Just when you look at these videos, there's a couple things I want to point out. It tells you how long it is. You can cut it down if you need to. The number right here, that tells you how many questions/notes are attached to the Edpuzzle. And we'll talk about notes later on, but notes it's not something the students have to answer. It could be at the beginning of your Edpuzzle video describing to the students what to do during this lesson, or it could be at the end of the Edpuzzle video telling the students what they should be doing next. So let's say I want to use this video right here. I'm just going to click on it. Left-hand side, I see the video. I also see other videos that are similar that I can look through. And then it shows you each of these dots are a question that's already in there. And then it also shows me over here, these are the times that there are questions. So it's mostly multiple choice, looks like. Now let's say I want to just assign this the way it is. I viewed it. I saw the questions and I just want to assign. I would press assign and I would assign it to my class. And this is what it looks like to assign. So this is my class that is updated through Classroom. You want to give it a start date, a due date. One important thing right here is preventing skipping. Preventing skipping means the students cannot go past a question without answering it. So it's a good idea to keep the students paying attention to the video because they do have to answer questions based on the video. You can turn on closed captioning, and I can turn on post to my Google Classroom. So it goes straight to my classroom. I don't even have to assign it there. Let's say that I have a video and I don't want to assign it yet. I just want to edit. So I'm going to make a copy into my content. So in the beginning, we talked about where our content is. This is my content right here. And this is the video that I just made a copy of. So here's the same type of view that I had before, but this time I want to edit. So this is where you're going to edit. Over here, it tells you what are the different questions.
I would generally...
So it shows you right here, it stops at that little circle, that little teardrop, and this is the video that's going to show up for your students. They cannot go past this if you have it turned on until they have answered this question. That's the beauty of Edpuzzle. The students have to stop and think about what they have been learning. Now, another thing that I can do is I can cut the video. So if I want to cut the video and take something out, I can do that.
I would generally suggest avoiding working alone in a lab.
I'm just going to pause. So you can cut your video by just doing this. So it'll cut off the beginning of the video. So if I would just do this and then add cut, it would cut that part out of the video. So you can take parts out. You can go to your questions. You can take questions out. So let's say I don't want to add, or I don't want to include this question right here. I would press the trash can and then that question is gone. So I can go through, I would definitely recommend going through, if you're using a video that's already on there, go to that video and look at all the questions and see if they are questions that you want to add. You can also, let me move this out of the way. So like I said, over here is your questions. Let's say I want to finish. So over here, you have two different options. You can have a public or a private video. Public means that it's going to show up in the community, and private just means that only your students that you are sending this video to are able to see it. So let's say I want to assign, just like I said before, I want to pay attention to a couple things. One, I need to add it to my classroom. I could add it to a new class if I needed to. I need a due date. Prevent skipping. I definitely recommend using prevent skipping, and I definitely closed captioning, that's up to you, but I do definitely recommend using the post on Google Classroom. Now, if I assign, you can see that this is the video that I have assigned to my students. Here are my students. So this is where you can see what your students have done. Now, my students have not done anything on this video because I just assigned it, but you will see the percentage of it watched. So instead of just sending a video out and saying you need to watch this, you're actually going to be able to see how much of that video have your students watched. If you have multiple choice questions on your quiz or on your assignment, you will see their grade. You'll see their last watch, so the last time they watched it, whether it was turned in, and then you can reset if you need a student to go back and do it again. So this is pretty much what it looks like while you are waiting for your students to answer. One thing you can do is you can click on questions and it'll tell you the questions, the right answers, and it'll actually show you how many of your students have gotten it right. So I have 0 out of 2 students who have gotten it right because 0 out of 2 have completed the lesson. Now, let's say I want to upload a video. That's your other option. So your next step would be to choose your file. I'm going to go ahead and click on choose a file. And then I'm just going to take a video that I have on my computer. And you'll see that it takes you to your content, and it's going to show you that it's preparing your video. Now, the last step would be for you to go through your video, listen to it, watch it, and add your questions to it. A couple things that you need to keep in mind. At the beginning, a lot of the trainings that I went through, they always recommend to use a note at the beginning of the video and at the end of the video. The beginning of the video, they want you to use one to get your students acquainted with the lesson, what is expected of them, what is the goal of the lesson, how will they be showing that they completed the lesson, whether it be something they're doing on paper or if it's questions that they have to answer. It also gives that personal touch to a video that you might not have if you just found a video online. The students understand that, yes, my teacher is here, my teacher is pushing out this content to me, and it just gives that personal touch. Also, you want to put a note at the end. The note at the end pretty much is to close up the lesson, to show this or to tell the students what is expected of them after. So for example, if you are doing a flipped lesson where the students learn on their own and then they have something to practice in class, you have to give them their goal for the rest of the class. You also can review from the lesson, give the students instructions. If they are struggling, you can link resources to it. So for example, if a student feels that they're still not understanding whatever the lesson was, you can give them more resources to go to. So I have my sample video right here, and I'm going to open it up. And as you can see, I don't have any questions. So I want to edit. And so this is where I'm going to add my questions. You can also do a voiceover. So if, for example, you want to show like an experiment, and it's an experiment that doesn't have anyone talking in it, or even if it does, if you would like to talk over it instead, you can do a voiceover and you can record right from here. Questions, 3 different types: multiple choice, which will be graded automatically; open-ended, which the students have to give a little bit more idea of what they think. These could be questions where they're actually giving answers, or it could be questions just saying how they feel about the topic and what they're struggling with, things like that. So you have that open connection between you and the students. And then the notes I was talking about, that is when you pretty much you're either talking or you're typing something to your students for them to see. So to add your questions, it's very easy. You're just going to type them in. Again, if you have videos that you found in the community, you do not have to do this, but you just type in your question, you type in your multiple choice answers. For an open-ended question, you're just going to type your answer. And then if you want to allow audio responses, if you want your students to speak instead of type, you can do that. And then your notes. Notes are pretty much, like I said, you can record or you can type it. What do you want your students to get out of this lesson? And then what do you want them to do after? And then when you're done, you're just going to go to finish. And you're going to make sure it's public or private. And then you'll assign just like you did before. So I'm gonna attach it to my classroom. It's assigned. Here's another view of this video and what it looks like as the teacher. If you would like to view it as the student, you can. This is what it's going to look like as a student, and obviously I don't have any questions, so it's not going to show questions. And over here is where their questions will be. I just wanted to go over some best practices for using Edpuzzle. These are all things that I found. I've done a bunch of trainings for Edpuzzle, and there was things that they talked about. Like I said, the audio note, these are really important to explain to your students what is expected of them, and it also gives that personal touch. After the lesson, you can add a few open-ended questions. You can add a note just telling the students what is expected of them next. So a couple ways that you can create the videos. Yes, you can create just like I am right now. I'm using my camera and I'm screencasting, but you could also use your document camera. Let's say you're a math teacher and you want to use base 10 blocks and you want your students to be able to see you moving those base 10 blocks around. You can use your document camera. You just need to make sure that that is your default camera that you're using. And if you need help with that, let me know. You can also use your camera set up for you talking and working on the board. Say I have my whiteboard right here, whether it be projecting something and writing on the whiteboard, or it could be using like a pad of paper, anything like that. And then, like I said, screen recording is a good option. Questioning while you have the students working on this activity. So they suggested while you're recording whatever the lesson is to think to yourself, what would I ask my students if they were right in front of me? Pretend like your students are right in front of you. You know how the conversation will go, and it's good to check in with them during the lesson. Make it feel like you're there with them. Also, one thing they mentioned is if you ask a question and you have your student answer the question, whether it be a multiple choice or a short answer, go over the answer to the question. Don't make the student wait until they get a score, because a lot of times if we don't give that feedback right away, the student it's not going to help the student. So try to, and it does feel kind of strange to talk to the camera and pretend the camera is a real person, but it does really help your student feel like you're there with them. And they also mentioned the I do, you do, we do. You show something in your video, you ask your student to do it, then we're going to do it together. Another suggestion for science, a couple things they mentioned, National Geographic channel. That channel obviously is going to have a lot of science content. You can screen record a slideshow. So if you have a slideshow on animal cells, you can take the students through the slideshow, talking to them step by step. You can record an experiment. If you have something in your classroom that you would like to record, you actually going through an experiment, having the students hypothesize, having the students collect data as they're watching the presentation or the experiment. It can be just like you're standing in front of your students. Another thing you could do is an online simulation. If you can find, let's say, like an online simulation of a pendulum, you can explain the simulation first to your students, have them watch it, have them, if it's one that's interactive, have them use the simulation by themselves, and then maybe answer questions as they go. For history, some suggestions are teach the content during the video, and then you'll have time in class to either work with students, to catch up on students that are struggling. Have a graphic organizer or some type of note-taking for them while they're watching the video. Don't just have them sitting there watching the video, possibly not paying attention. Give them parameters for what they're supposed to be doing while they're watching this video. There's videos available from Khan Academy, Brain Pop. all kinds of videos that you can find online on pretty much anything pre-K through 12 that you're going to look for. Language arts, questions throughout the movie, talking about things that they already know. So if you're talking about inferencing, maybe while you're watching or while the student's watching the video, ask them a question about a time where they had to predict what they thought was going to come next. I really like this idea of having you read a story or even just a short paragraph in a story and stopping along the way, having questions, so the students have no choice but to slow down and not just speed through the book. I know at least my kids, they don't really comprehend what they're reading. They just keep on reading. But if you have them stop at different times, ask them a question, maybe just put in a note in there and say, did you hear him say this? What do you think about that? So I really like that. And you could actually take pictures of a picture book and make a slideshow and then have the students read the story right along with you, and they'll be analyzing the text and they won't even realize it. They did suggest maybe do one of these read-alongs as a class and then have the students do it on their own, just so they know what is expected of them. Things that are coming soon, screen recording. So you'll be able to screen record right through Edpuzzle. And right now you can just use something such as Loom. And also student audio responses. So instead of the students having to answer a question by typing, they can actually answer it by talking. So that's pretty much the gist of using Edpuzzle in the classroom. There's so much that you can do with this tool. It's such a powerful tool, especially if you either use any kind of instructional videos in your classroom, if any point you have students that need to be working from home. It's a great tool to make it seem like you're there, even though when you might not be. It opens up a lot of room for you working with other students in the classroom. And it is something that we do already have a subscription to, so you do not have to purchase anything else. If you do have any other questions about Edpuzzle, just let me know, and I would love to help you in your classroom.